Hello, it's a beautiful spring morning here in western Pennsylvania. We're headed here into my addition to continue hanging drywall. Yesterday, we went over how to cut and place drywall. Today we're going to go over the installation process of gluing, screwing, and tattooing. So, why don't you come along? Now, a couple days ago, I talked about the different types of fasteners. We talked about nails. Now, there's still an acceptable way to fasten drywall, not the most widely used anymore. Yes, they are used to tack drywall into place as you raise it up to have a quick tack, but you still are allowed to hang a whole house with nails. So I would hope we all know how to pound nails. It's just pounding nails. Now I want you to understand about every fastener that we use to hold drywall on. It needs to be sunk below the surface of the drywall. It can't be left to hang out to where our drywall finishing knife will hit it and cause a lump in the drywall. So to sink a nail, now, if you look closely at this, the nail is pounded so that it's indented a little ways. And that's exactly what we want. And don't be afraid. You're not going to break the drywall as long as you don't miss the stud.
Hey, you see this guy? That's Scuzzy Ernie. He's the boss. He runs this place. He's always looking over my stinking shoulder. If you see him in a video, back behind me, being all sneaky, you send me a personal email. Tell me what he's sitting on. If you give me the proper construction term, I'll give you 2 extra credit points. I better get back to work. The boss is watching.
Now I'm running drywall screws. I want to show you how to do this. Now drywall screws are the most common way to hang drywall. So, there's a lot more to it than just putting it on the end of a drill and running it in. Did you just say drill? Attention, attention! This is not a drill! This is a screw gun. Now in the cordless tools, we have drills and we have impact drivers, which the impact driver is a screw gun. What is the difference? The difference is that a drill has an adjustable chuck that gets smaller and larger, and it can take different sized drill bits. This tool is used for drilling holes. This tool, however, is used for driving screws or bolts. These two are very similar. This is a drywall screw gun. The difference is this drywall screw gun has a nose cone on it that adjusts the depth of the screws. So the idea is to have the drywall screw set deep enough so that mud can be swiped right over it without creating a high point. But we also don't want it too deep to where it starts to rip the paper. And you may say, who cares if it's too deep? Well, it matters because the drywall will pull right off the wall. I'll show you. As you saw earlier, when the paper's ripped, the drywall's not going to hold. So here comes the adjustment part. So we do a test screw. We can even do it in our wall. The ceiling that we're doing. Now as I put that screw in, I can feel that it's sitting a little high. So I'm going to adjust this. I never really go more than 2 or 3 clicks at a time. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to see if that doesn't fix our problem. Nope, still sticking out. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Okay, that's barely sunk below the surface. That's how we want it to be. You know, another trick to make your screws consistently set the same depth is to run your screw gun at the same speed. This has a variable speed trigger. As I pull it a little bit, it barely turns. As I pull it the whole way, you can hear that the RPMs go up. So, right in this area here is a lock. When we squeeze the trigger all the way, and we push this button up, this is going to lock it into position. We run our screw gun like that. You know, I think one of the biggest mistakes these manufacturers make is putting a long handle onto the screw gun. I know that it gives leverage for sometimes when you're getting into some high torque situations, but for the most part, when you're driving screws for drywall, this gun should be right into here like that. Notice they even cut a groove around there for your hand to go in. You want it to be part of your arm. Now, I do see a lot of people use this type of cordless screw gun to install drywall. Due to the fact that it doesn't set the depth correctly on the screws, this is not the tool to use. Now, in all fairness, you could slowly put the screws in and stop them at the right depth, but that would take a long time. So these two are similar to each other in the fact that they're both designed to drive screws. Neither one is a drill. Now, in yesterday's video, I said I was going to talk about the drywall router and show you how it works. Well, I have to tell you, it works excellent for things that stick out beyond the surface of the studs and ceiling joists. So when we install a sheet of drywall over top of a wall surface and we're planning on using the drywall router to cut out our outlets, this is what we need to do. First off, any wires that you have in the boxes here, make sure that they're tucked in as deep as you can make them. Next, we want to take measurements and put rough centers on the sheet of drywall that we're going to be installing to show where the center of that box is going to be. Finally, we just take that sheet of drywall, put it over top of our wall surface, screw it in. So when you put your screws in around these obstacles that you wish to cut out with the drywall router, my suggestion is keep your screws at least 18 inches away from that in every direction. If you don't, as you route out the box, it's going to pop the front of the drywall and cause it to tear out the face. Then you'll be stuck with a bigger finishing job at the end. Now, did you see how that board pushed in once that was cut? If we have our screws too close to where our cutout's going to be, that last inch or so of drywall is just going to bust out, and it'll make a much bigger cutout than what we needed. Not really a cutout, it'll make a bigger blowout than the size of our cutout. Hanging drywall is one of those jobs that's much easier done with 2 people. I've been hanging drywall here for about a week with Drywall Dan. We work pretty well together. I usually do the layout and the cutouts, and he does the installation. With him up on the scaffold giving me measurements, it makes the job go much quicker. Then I'll jump up on the scaffold and help him if it's a difficult piece to install. Drywall Dan puts a bead of glue on every ceiling joist. Center of every joist in the edge of every joist that the edge of the sheet splits on. And he's careful not to run the glue past the 4-foot mark. So what we'll do is move the scaffold into position after the drywall is set on there. That way all we have to do is lift the drywall. And it should be really close to where it needs to be. By the way, don't forget to lock your scaffold into place before you climb up on it. It's pretty important before you start hanging a board to make sure that your screw guns are into place, you have screws in your pouch, and you're ready to go. Before I climb up, I have a handful of screws ready to start installing. Ready to go. Up. Come on, Dan.
Back it up. In.
In. My joint's tight over here. Yours looking good?
Tight.
Both joints tight?
Yep. Hit it. Good?
Yep. So while I'm working on measurements for the next sheet, Drywall Dan continues to screw this sheet off. So here's the measurements Drywall Dan gave me. This is the crosshair of the two. I just put a rough circle around it so that I know what's up there.
That's a total redo. That looked like
And that's the way it's supposed to look.
So here, what you see, we have two chunks of scrap 2x4. We just screwed these in right below where we're going to be hanging the first sheet of drywall here, right on these rafters. We put a beam of glue down each rafter, and what the purpose of these blocks are is so that way we can rest each sheet of drywall on here, well, this sheet of drywall, so that way all we have to do is just hinge it up into place, so that way it's bearing almost all the weight on these, and then we can focus on just screwing them in.
I want to thank you for stopping by Virtual Carpentry. In this 3-day series on drywall, we learned about the material on day 1. On day 2, we learned how to lay out and cut out pieces of drywall. And on day 3, well, we put the pieces up with a screw gun. So this is Mr. Carlini saying over and out, as you were. Well, I have to tell you, well, I have to tell you, they work. Well, I have to tell you, it works excellent. Drywall screw gun, screw good, just screw good.
and cut.
No,
Oh,
you
sorry.
don't cut, I cut. Who the hell are you?